We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Gaza truce extended by 48 hours. 11 more hostages freed on day 4. Efforts on in full swing to rescue 41 trapped workers in India's Uttarakhand rat hole mining team deployed for rescue ops. It was glitz and glamour galore at the 54th edition of International Film Festival of India that comes to a close today. The 10-day cinematic extravaganza leaves film enthusiasts thrilled and spellbound. And India to take on Australia in the third T20 international match in northeastern Indian city of Guwahati. India leads series by 2-0. And on to details now. A truce between Israel and Hamas in Gaza extended by 2 days. According to Qatar and the United States, Hamas will release another 20 women and children to Israel over the next 2 days as part of the agreement. U.S. National Security spokesman John Kirby says with the truce extended, more hostages can be freed from Gaza. DD India correspondent Benji Hire has the details.
Yes, thus far more than 50 hostages have been let go and returned to their families, weeks after being abducted during Hamas's deadly attack on Israel. They include a little American girl, Abigail, who turned just 4 years old while in captivity. Her parents were slaughtered in front of her on October 7th. Dozens of young Palestinians have been released from Israeli prisons in exchange as part of this wider swap. And now another diplomatic breakthrough with this deal. Just hours before the 4-day humanitarian pause in the fighting was due to expire, Qatar announced Israel and Hamas have agreed to a 2-day extension, a move that's been welcomed by the White House.
This humanitarian pause has already brought a halt to the fighting, together with a surge of humanitarian assistance. Now, in order to extend the pause, Hamas has committed to releasing another 20 women and children over the next 2 days. We would, of course, hope to see the pause extended further, and that will depend upon Hamas continuing to release hostages.
In a statement on Monday, President Joe Biden said he wouldn't stop until all of the hostages held by Hamas terrorists are released. We are taking full advantage of the pause in fighting, he adds, to increase the amount of humanitarian aid moving into Gaza, and we will continue our efforts to build a future of peace and dignity for the Palestinian people. Israel, which credits the US in helping broker the deal, confirmed that for every 10 hostages released, it's willing to offer an extension of another day to the truce. The administration here hoped to see the pause extended further, but is not calling for a full ceasefire. Benji Hire in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Well, 11 hostages released by Hamas on 4th day of the truce in Gaza. An Israeli army video set to show Red Cross vehicles carrying the Israeli hostages cross from Gaza towards Israel on the 4th day of a deal between Israel and Hamas. Qatar said the newly released hostages, all dual citizens, included 3 with French nationality, 2 with German nationality and 6 Argentine citizens. Also, the Israeli army released a video on Monday showing containers carrying fuel and cooking gas at the Gaza border. 8 containers carrying diesel fuel and cooking gas were transferred from Egypt to UN humanitarian aid organizations in Gaza as part of the truce deal. The fuel and cooking gas are designated for the operation of vital humanitarian infrastructure in Gaza. Israel said that 200 humanitarian aid trucks are also being dispatched to international aid organizations operating in Gaza. The trucks only carry food, water, shelter equipment and medical supplies. Well, Israel has raised concern about the well-being of hostages held by Hamas. IDF spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, in a video message, urged the International Committee of the Red Cross, which is coordinating the transfer of hostages into Israel, to visit those still held in Gaza.
We call on the international organization, especially the Red Cross, to use every tool at their disposal to gain access to our hostages, to make sure they're receiving the medical care they need. Our hostages are not lost. We won't sit around and hope they're found. We will rescue our hostages at all costs. It is our duty, it is our moral responsibility of the Israeli Defense Forces. It's why we fight and why we must keep on fighting until all our hostages are home.
Also, German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier, who is in Israel, met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday. According to a statement by Netanyahu's office, he thanked the German president for visiting Israel, describing him as a true friend of Israel. Steinmeier visited Jerusalem to show solidarity with Israel. German president is also visiting Oman and Qatar. And now let's take a look at other stories making news across Israel. Emotional reunions took place in Israel as hostages who were held by Hamas in Gaza for weeks returned to Israel. 13 Israeli hostages and 4 foreign nationals were released on the second day of a truce between Israel and Hamas. Also, a 4-year-old orphaned toddler, Abigail Adan, was released by Hamas in Gaza. Israel shared photos of her sitting with her aunt and uncle. Abigail is an American Israeli who was released after 50 days in Hamas captivity. She lost her parents when Hamas militants rampaged through southern Israel. Meanwhile, 2 Israeli girls were released from Hamas captivity, could not pull away from the tight embrace of their mother. They were held hostage for 51 days. The mother met the girls at an Israeli army base, where the 2 were transported to from Hamas-run Gaza. The girls were released as part of a temporary truce deal between Hamas and Israel. And NATO Ministers of Foreign Affairs is taking place on Tuesday and Wednesday at its headquarters in Brussels. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken also reached Belgium on Monday. Blinken will be attending Ukraine-focused meetings on Tuesday and Wednesday in Brussels and Skopje, where foreign ministers from NATO and the Organizations for Peace and Security in Europe are gathering. He will be highlighting the NATO alliance's ongoing support for Ukraine and its war with Russia in Europe. Blinken will return to Israel and the West Bank to discuss further extensions of the Gaza ceasefire. Well, the gathering of the world's biggest military alliance, NATO, comes as some countries express concern of a wider regional conflict in the wake of the war between Israel and Hamas. From Berlin, Did India correspondent Trent Murray has the latest.
Well, foreign ministers from NATO member countries come together at a time of increased conflict and concern in Europe and the region more broadly. We know for that reason it is a jam-packed agenda ahead for these ministers as they get together. Jens Stoltenberg, the leader of NATO, said that Israel and the situation with Gaza and Hamas would be one of the top agenda items. He called for an extension of that ceasefire in order to try and allow more hostages to be released. He also called on Iran to rein in what he described as their proxies, Syria, Yemen, the Islamist Shiite group Hezbollah in Lebanon, saying that if they continue to get involved, then it could spill into a wider regional conflict. We also know Ukraine will form a very large part of the discussions. There is very real concern here in Europe that going into the winter, the Ukrainians could continue to be bogged down and could even face ammunition shortages, which could hamper their efforts to try and reclaim territory lost to the Russians over the past 18 months or so. And then, of course, there is the discussion of Sweden, the newest NATO member, or certainly wants to be. It's still not able to get into the military alliance yet, and that is because President Erdogan of Turkey has still not signed off on their application. We understand the legislation is currently in the Turkish parliament, but several Turkish media sources are saying they do not expect it to be approved in time for this foreign ministers' meeting wrapping up. Trent Murray for DD India, Berlin.
And Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to address the World Russian People's Council, with the Kremlin emphasizing the speech's significance. Putin is expected to urge unity against Western pressure. DD India's correspondent Dasha Chernyshova reports from Moscow.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is expected to take part in the plenary session of the World Russian People's Council. The organization is celebrating its 30th anniversary, and the central theme is the present and the future of the Russian world. According to the Kremlin, President Putin will be joining by the video link. Announcing the president's speech, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that every speech by the Russian president is very important. Deputy head of the World Russian People's Council, Konstantin Malafeyev, has earlier said that the speech by the Russian president will be devoted to, quote, the situation of the Russian world after the victory of Moscow in the conflict with Ukraine. Petro Kirill of Moscow and all Russia, representatives of the Russian Orthodox Church, state authorities, public associations, scientists and cultural figures are expected to discuss the issues of migration, education, demography, ideology and economy at the two-day event. On Monday, President Putin addressed the Primakov readings, an international forum of experts. In his speech, he said a new, fairer and more democratic system of international relations was emerging to meet the needs of the world majority. Putin is also expected to hold a big press conference later this year. Dasha Chernyshova reporting in Moscow for DD India.
And the 5th edition of the World Nuclear Exhibition kicks off today just outside Paris. More than 650 exhibitors and 20,000 attendees from more than 70 countries are expected at what's seen as the major annual gathering for the civil nuclear industry. Let's take a look at DD India correspondent Ross Cullen report to know more.
The World Nuclear Exhibition is an opportunity for countries, decision makers and stakeholders in the nuclear sector to come together. And national pavilions will represent some of the major nuclear players globally, including China, Japan, the UK, the US and France. Speakers include the heads of the International Energy Agency and the International Atomic Energy Agency, the EU's industry chief and a range of voices from the private sector. France is arguably the biggest European nuclear power, from the military side and its nuclear deterrent to the civil setup, with 70% of its electricity coming from nuclear energy due to a long-standing policy based on energy security. Earlier this year, President Macron announced 6 new civil nuclear reactors will be built here in the coming decades, with nuclear power at the heart of the country's drive for carbon neutrality by 2050. France and India are working together on what could become the world's largest nuclear power plant, the Jaitapur project. EDF is hoping to build the world's largest civilian atomic infrastructure on the Indian Ocean coast, about 400 kilometres from Mumbai. Both countries have also joined forces to explore the potential of small modular reactors and advanced modular reactors. After Prime Minister Narendra Modi's trip here in July, France and India agreed on a proposal from French energy firm EDF to train Indian engineers and technicians specialising in civil nuclear power. The environmental challenges, advantages and concerns around nuclear power will be at the heart of many of the meetings and talks to be held at the exhibition over the next couple of days. And given the current climate and energy crisis, the theme for this 5th edition of the World Nuclear Exhibition is connecting nuclear to the world, rising to the energy and environmental challenges. In Paris, Ross Cullen reporting for DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. North Korea's Kim received various photos taken by its spy satellite. US and South Korea have condemned the satellite launch. We tell you more ahead. 20 people killed in gunfire attacks on military barracks, prison and other locations stunned Sierra Leone on Sunday. Stay with us to know the details. Christmas fervor sets in as Christmas preparations at US White House begin. We get you ahead this year's Christmas decorations unveiled by the First Lady herself, Jill Biden.
In a A world that never stops, where information shapes our reality. One app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authenticity.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Moving on, North Korea's ambassador made a rare appearance at the UN Security Council on Monday to defend his country's launch of a spy satellite. The 15-member body met on Monday over the North Korea's November 21st spy satellite launch. At the end of the meeting, U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield and North Korean Ambassador Kim Song made unplanned remarks, engaging in dueling rights of reply across the council table, each arguing that their countries are acting defensively.
The DPRK claims it's acting in self-defense, but the self-defense really does not stand here, as the U.S. and ROK military exercises, as you know, are routine and they're defensive in nature. And we intentionally reduce risk and pursue transparency by announcing the exercises in advance, including the dates and the activities, unlike the DPRK. And unlike the DPRK's launches using ballistic missile technology, these actions are not prohibited by UN Security Council resolutions. So we reject strongly the disingenuous DPRK claim that its missile launches are merely defensive in nature in response to our bilateral and trilateral military exercises.
One belligerent party, the United States, is threatening us with a nuclear weapon. It is legitimate right for the DPRK as another belligerent party to develop, test, manufacture, and possess weapon system equivalent to those that the United States have already possessed and or developing right now.
Meanwhile, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un received photos taken by its recently launched spy satellite of White House, Pentagon and U.S. aircraft carriers in the naval base of Norfolk. According to state media KCNA, the North Korean leader also inspected satellite photos of the Andersen Air Force Base in the U.S. Western Pacific Territory of Guam and a U.S. shipyard and airbase in Norfolk and Newport, where 4 U.S. Navy nuclear aircraft carriers and a British aircraft carrier were spotted in the photos. The United States and South Korea have condemned the satellite launch as a violation of UN Security Council resolutions banning any use of ballistic technology. Well, in another update, North Korea started rebuilding guard posts and stationing heavy weapons along its border with South Korea. South Korea's defense ministry said in a statement on Monday that it detected North Korea building guard posts at border sites where its dismantled guard post once stood, and that North Korea deployed troops and heavy weapons there. DD India correspondent Chris Gilbert reports from Tokyo, Japan.
It's hard to quantify exactly, what the tensions on the peninsula are. It has been a very quiet year so far from North Korea in terms of missile launches. We've seen about half of the projectiles launched that we saw last year. We've seen about half of the impromptu responses from South Korea that we saw last year. We have seen a lot of geopolitical maneuvering with Pyongyang getting closer to Moscow, of course, and South Korea and Tokyo getting closer and improving their relations trilaterally with the US. It is a small escalation, but a lot depends how much the international community accepts the fact that North Korea says and feels like it has a gun pointed to its head, being told to come back to the bargaining table with US nuclear-armed aircraft carriers often parked in Busan throughout the year. That depends on the international reaction to what is South Korea walking away from part of an agreement to de-escalate the peninsula, and any intention from the US-led forces and partners to indeed return to talks and meet North Korea where its interests are as well.
And North Korea has closed down its embassy in Bangladesh, mentioning that Pyongyang would maintain relations with Dhaka through its embassy in New Delhi. North Korea communicated its decision about closure of its embassy in Dhaka to the Foreign Ministry of Bangladesh through a note verbate. The Bangladesh Foreign Ministry official told media persons in Dhaka on Sunday about the note verbale received from North Korea. The note verbale said that they are closing down embassies in Bangladesh as well as in Nepal to better manage and operate their activities in the region from their New Delhi mission, said the official. The embassy in Dhaka is North Korea's 6th diplomatic mission to close since late October, following those in Spain, Hong Kong, Uganda, Angola and Nepal. North Korean officials stationed in Dhaka left Bangladesh on November 21st this year. And Poland's President Andrzej Duda on Monday swore in members of new government that will need to get vote of confidence within 2 weeks, claimed as a farce by opposing parties, intended to delay them from taking power after they won a majority in October's election, despite the opposition alliance led by former Prime Minister Donald Tusk winning majority seats and eager to form government. President Duda called on the Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki to do so. Now Morawiecki needs to win the confidence vote in 2 weeks' time, which seems highly unlikely due to the number of seats. And in Sierra Leone, at least 20 people were killed and nearly 2,000 inmates escaped during Sunday's attack on a military barracks, a prison and other locations. The West African country was thrown into panic in the early hours on Sunday when the assailants sent gunfire ringing across the capital, Freetown. The government later informed that the attacks had been dealt with. Of the 20 dead include 13 soldiers and 3 assailants. 8 other people were wounded, while 3 were arrested so far. Some 1,890 inmates escaped from the Pedamba Road Central Prison after the attackers broke in. The police urged inmates to return to prison on Monday and offered the public rewards for details on the whereabouts of escapees or the attackers. Only 23 returned so far. Moving on, Irish trade union members and supporters rallied in Dublin to denounce the riots triggered by the stabbing of 3 young children last week. Demonstrators held banners that said "Fight the fascist threat" and "Unity over division," marking a solidarity for workers attacked during the riots. Earlier, police had blamed far-right agitators for starting the violence on last week after the stabbing incident in Dublin's Parnell Square. Officials have not ruled out any angle, including terror, keeping quiet about the detained suspect's motives and his personal details. And the British Museum has rejected the return of Parthenon sculptures, claiming that possession is 9/10 of the law. Who knew antiquities had lawyers? Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis accused British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak of abruptly cancelling a planned meeting in London over the dispute regarding the Parthenon sculptures. Athens has long demanded the permanent return of the ancient sculptures removed by British diplomat Lord Elgin in the 19th century. Mitsotakis expressed annoyance at the cancellation and emphasized Greece's stance on the issue, hoping for a discussion with his British counterpart. The British Museum, however, has consistently refused to return the sculptures. Sunak's office declined to explain the cancellation. And moving on, in a major setback to public health efforts, New Zealand's newly sworn-in Prime Minister Christopher Luxon and his centre-right coalition have announced plans to repeal laws that would have banned tobacco sales for future generations. The measures introduced by the previous Labour-led government, aimed at saving thousands of lives, were intended to restrict tobacco sales to individuals born after January 1, 2009, reduce nicotine levels in tobacco products, and significantly decrease the number of tobacco retailers by over 90%. This move is said to be a blow to global efforts to combat tobacco-related harm.
Issues around a 36-year-old can smoke, but a 35-year-old can't. We just think some of that doesn't work. We've seen smoking rates come down across multiple generations of government. We expect that to continue. We'll have strong education campaigns.
Also, Peruvian authorities on Monday destroyed more than 19 tons of illegal drugs. Authorities had confiscated drugs in several different operations during 2023. That includes cocaine and marijuana, among others. This was the country's fourth massive drug burn this year. And heavy snowstorms and floods hit many places in Russia since Monday, with Moscow witnessing the worst snowfall in November in 40 years. That disrupted traffic, heating and power supply throughout the country. Flights were delayed or cancelled at 3 airports in Moscow. More than 50 special equipments and about 1,500 personnel were engaged to clear railway tracks. The extreme weather also triggered floods, submerging houses, cut off heating and electricity, and damaged infrastructures and cars at large. More than 350 people have been evacuated during the rescue operations, with 118 of them being inhabited in temporary accommodation centres. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Prince of Wales honours African conservation champions at the annual Tusk Conservation Awards in London on Monday. The Royal has been patron of the charity Tusk since 2005. At the charity event, his speech focused on environmental issues and need for collective efforts to combat the alarming loss of species and habitats in Africa. London's Charles Dickens Museum turns into a festive haven ahead of Christmas. The historic location is decked up, showcasing the holiday traditions which the English 19th century novelist and his family enjoyed at 48 Doughty Street, his London address. Christmas preparations at US White House begins as First Lady Jill Biden unveils this year's decorations. The theme for the year is of magic, wonder and joy. The decorations celebrate the 200th anniversary of the holiday classic storybook, The Night Before Christmas. The festivals of Loy Krathong and Yi Peng was celebrated in Thailand's Bangkok on Monday. Loy Krathong is an annual traditional festival celebrated by Thais to pay respect to the goddess of water and Lord Buddha. Yi Peng is an ancient festive event traditionally celebrated to mark the end of the monsoon season and the beginning of winter. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India shines as global trade and investment destination at India International Trade Fair that witnessed over 1 million visitors on its last day. Indian states illuminated on the occasion of Dev Deepavali. On the occasion of Kartik Purnima, we tell you the significance ahead. Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra progresses to Indian state of Odisha. We tell you ahead.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Gaza truce extended by 48 hours, 11 more hostages freed on day 4. Efforts on in full swing to rescue 41 trapped workers in India's Uttarakhand. Rathole mining team deployed for rescue ops. It was glitz and glamour galore at the 54th edition of International Film Festival of India that comes to a close today. The 10-day cinematic extravaganza leaves film enthusiasts thrilled and spellbound. And India to take on Australia in the third T20 international match in northeastern Indian city of Guwahati. India leads series by 2-0. And efforts are on in full swing to rescue 41 workers trapped inside the under-construction tunnel in North India's Uttarakhand. Rat hole mining specialists initiated manual drilling through the debris on Monday. Auger machine is being used for pushing the pipe. So far, about 2 meters of manual drilling has been completed. The authorities have also now deployed artificial intelligence and robotics technology in the rescue mission that will monitor the health of the trapped workers, also study the environment inside the tunnel. This will provide real-time data to the rescue authorities for better planning of the rescue mission. India's Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami said that a rescue operation is underway and everyone is fine.
सारे इंजीनियर, सारे विशेषज्ञ, सभी लोग अपने पूरे शिद्दत के साथ पूरे जितना जोर है सारा लगा रखा है और अभी 52 मीटर अभी अंदर चला गया है पाइप। हम उम्मीद कर रहे हैं कि जिस प्रकार से काम चल रहा है बहुत जल्दी ब्रेक थ्रू हो जाएगा और पाइप आर पार होते ही उन सबको निकालने की जो प्रक्रिया है उस प्रक्रिया को शुरू किया जाएगा। सभी लोग ठीक हैं और सब पूरी ऊर्जा के साथ और सभी एक सकारात्मक रूप से सभी के अंदर मैंने सभी से भेंट की है, सभी को देखा है अंदर जितने भी लोग काम कर रहे हैं सभी ने इस प्रकार की संभावना व्यक्त करी है।
Well, micro-tunneling expert Chris Cooper said things are looking very positive.
It's gone very well last night. They've just crossed 50 meters. There's about, let's say it's about 5 or 6 meters to go. They're just putting another pipe in, so we're expecting some good results later today. So we haven't had any obstacles last night, and it's looking very positive sometime today.
And for more on this, we have a correspondent, OP Yadav, with us. Well, OP, what is the update as no stone is being left unturned, as vertical, horizontal, perpendicular, manually, all types of drilling is happening on full scale?
जी उत्तर काशी के सिलक्यारा टनल में बीते 12 नवंबर से सुरंग में मलबा ढहने से फंसे मजदूरों के लिए आपदा राहत और प्रबंधन कार्य युद्ध स्तर पर लगातार जारी है। आज अगर ताज़ा अपडेट की बात करें तो यहाँ कल तक मैनुअली ड्रिलिंग, परपेंडिकुलर ड्रिलिंग, हॉरिजॉन्टल ड्रिलिंग और वर्टिकल ड्रिलिंग सभी मोड पे लगातार काम हो रहा था और मोर्चे पे काम की रिजल्ट भी अच्छा आ रहे थे। वर्टिकल ड्रिलिंग में तकरीबन 40 मीटर तक सुरंग पहाड़ के ऊपर से खोदी जा चुकी थी। उसके बाद मैनुअली जो ड्रिलिंग का काम दिया गया नीचे सिलक्यारा साइड में, उसमें बहुत तेज़ी से जोर पकड़ा और तकरीबन अभी 52 मीटर तक इसको पाइप को पहुंचा दिया गया है। इसके बाद अब तकरीबन 7 से 8 मीटर का रास्ता बचा है, हो सकता है 10 मीटर भी बचे, लेकिन बहुत ज़्यादा दूरी नहीं है। इधर मैनुअली ड्रिलिंग जो कर रहे हैं उसकी आवाज़ दूसरी साइड में मजदूरों तक आभास भी पहुँच रहा है, उनको पता लग रहा है कि हम बहुत नज़दीक पहुँच चुके हैं। मुख्यमंत्री पुष्कर सिंह धामी ने भी आज प्रेस ब्रीफिंग में कहा कि आज देर शाम तक इस ऑपरेशन को पूरा कर लिया जाएगा। तो उम्मीद की जाती है कि इसमें जो रेट माइनर्स है उसकी भूमिका बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण रही है। ये टीम बहुत ही विशेषज्ञ टीम है, इसमें अलग अलग जगह से इंडियन आर्मी के कोर ऑफ इंजीनियर्स टीम के 25 एक्सपर्ट यहाँ आए हुए हैं। इसके अलावा इंडियन ब्यूरो ऑफ माइंस से 4 लोग आए हुए हैं। इसके अलावा मुंबई से सीवर में काम करने वाले एक्सपर्ट लोग आए हुए हैं और झांसी से भी 6 लोग आए हैं। इसके साथ ही साथ ट्रेंचलेस कंपनी है उसके अपने 15 लोग हैं और जो नई युवा कंपनी इसका काम देख रही थी उसके भी अपने एक्सपर्ट हैं। तो बहुत सारी कोऑर्डिनेशन के साथ टीम बनाई गई है और जो 800 mm का पाइप है उसके अंदर जाके ये रेट माइनस धीरे धीरे कुदाली, फावड़ा, लोहा, छेनी, बरसी इस तरह के जो आइटम हैं उनके जरिए ड्रिलिंग का काम कर रहे हैं। उन्होंने तकरीबन 3-4 मीटर तक की ड्रिलिंग कर भी ली है और यही बात है कि अब ये तकरीबन 52 मीटर से भी आगे बढ़ चुका है और पूरा ये हो सकता है 8 से 10 मीटर तक का रहे, लेकिन देर शाम तक इसको पूरा करने के बाद इस ऑपरेशन के जरिए मजदूरों को सकुशल बाहर निकाल लिया जाएगा।
All right. OP, also how and what kind of food is being provided to the workers? Are they being able to speak to the relatives? What's happening?
जी, इसमें टनल में फंसे 41 मजदूरों के लिए पहले दिन से लेकर आज तक लगातार खाने पीने और उनको ऑक्सीजन की आपूर्ति कराने के लिए बेहतर प्रबंध किए गए थे। शुरुआती टाइम में जब जो 4 mm का पाइप था उसके जरिए उनको ऑक्सीजन और खाने पीने की बहुत ही लाइट फूड और न्यूट्रिशनल फूड जैसे ड्राई फ्रूट्स है, चने, मुरमुरे, इस तरह की चीज़ें भेजी जा रही थी। लेकिन उसके बाद पैरेलली एक 6 इंच का पाइप फिर से इसमें डाल दिया गया मैनुअली उसी के पास से, और उस पाइप के जरिए बाद में ऑक्सीजन की आपूर्ति के साथ साथ दाल, चावल, रोटी, आटा, पुलाव और अन्य तरह की चीज़ें जो इनको ज़रूरत के लिए आवश्यक होती है दैनिक जीवन में खाने के लिए, वो सब उन तक पहुँचाई गई। साथ ही साथ उनके लिए कुछ कपड़े, अंडरगारमेंट्स और टूथब्रश इस तरह की चीज़ें भी उन तक पहुँचाई गई। इसका सबसे बड़ा फायदा यह रहा कि उनको फ्रूट्स और डे डाइट के हिसाब से जो चिकित्सक है उनकी सलाह के आधार पर ऐसा भोजन दिया गया जिससे वो टनल में अंदर रहकर स्वस्थ रहें और सेहतमंद रहें और उनका किसी तरह से मानसिक और शारीरिक स्तर का जो लेवल एक पैरामीटर होता है उससे नीचे न जाए। तो निश्चित तौर पर बीते 17 दिन आज ये हैं, तो इन 16 दिन के अंदर इनको खाने पीने की ना कोई कमी रही है, बल्कि उनको एक व्यवस्थित भोजन की डाइट मिलने के साथ साथ उनकी जो आवश्यक ज़रूरतें हैं उनको भी यहाँ पूरा करने का बेहतर प्रबंधन किया गया है।
All right, 17th day today, OP. Can you explain us as to how the rescue will happen? Where will they be taken after the rescue?
जी, टनल के अंदर जो ऑपरेशन चल रहे हैं उसके पैरेलली इनको रेस्क्यू करने के बाद किस तरह की तैयारी हमें करनी है, इसको लेकर भी प्रबंधन और इससे जुड़े जो एक्सपर्ट्स हैं वो लगातार काम कर रहे हैं। यही वजह कि जब ये रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन अपने अंजाम तक पहुंचेगा तो एनडीआरएफ की जो टीम है जो इन कामों में व्यस्त रहती है वो ऑलरेडी प्रशिक्षित है। उन्होंने अपना प्रैक्टिस ऑलरेडी जो ट्रायल करना होता है वो कर लिया है। वो स्ट्रेचर के जरिए इस टनल में जाएगी, उसके बाद इस टनल को पूरी तरह से अच्छी तरह से इसको सैनिटाइज किया जाएगा और सैनिटाइज करके बाद मजदूरों को 1 बाय 1 स्ट्रेचर पर लिटा के बाहर निकाला जाएगा। बाहर निकालते ही उनकी प्राइमरी तौर पे सबसे पहले इनकी जांच की जाएगी स्वास्थ्य की, और उसके लिए पैरामेडिकल स्टाफ लगाया गया है जो इनको प्रारंभिक तौर पे देखेगा, जांचेगा और परखेगा। उसके बाद इसी सुरंग के बगल में मैं अपने सहयोगी से कहूंगा जरा इसका व्यू दिखाएं। एक छोटा सा हॉस्पिटल इधर बनाया गया है जहां पर तकरीबन 10 से 15 बेड लगे हुए हैं और इन्हीं बेड के ऊपर लाकर इनको एक बार फिर से चीफ मेडिकल ऑफिसर स्तर के चिकित्सा अधिकारी इनकी जाँच करेंगे और जाँच के बाद इन सबको 45 मोबाइल एम्बुलेंस यहाँ खड़ी है ऑलरेडी, उनमें बैठाकर लिटाकर और जिस तरह की स्थिति बनेगी उसी तरह इनको आगे जो जिला चिकित्सालय है, उप चिकित्सालय, उसमें ले जाकर इनका प्रारंभिक जांच किया जाएगा। ये जिला उप चिकित्सालय उत्तरकाशी जिले में बनाया गया है। वहां पर इनको फिर एक अच्छे तरीके से बेहतर ट्रीटमेंट देने के लिए जांच करने के बाद जब इनको लगेगा कि भाई ये बहुत ही स्वस्थ हैं और इनको किसी तरह का विकार नहीं है, मानसिक और शारीरिक रूप से इनका जो लेवल है वो अप टू डेट है, तो उसके बाद इनको यहाँ से जॉली ग्रांट एयरपोर्ट ले जाकर डिस्ट्रिक्ट के एम्स में ले जाया जाएगा और वहाँ पर पूरी तरह से इनको स्वस्थ होने के बाद इनके जो परिजन हैं उनको सौंप दिया जाएगा ताकि वो अपने घर घर पहुँचे।
All right, OP, thank you so much for joining us from there and giving us that update. So our correspondent OP Yadav told us that about 50 meters of drilling has been done and 8 to 10 meters is still remaining in addition to about 40 meters drilling vertically, and there is a wide possibility that the workers will be rescued by this evening. Also, the authorities now are very hopeful. He told us that proper nutritious food and fruits is being regularly supplied to the workers. They're also being provided with clothes, and now the workers are extremely excited and hopeful that they'll be able to see the light of the day soon. Also on their rescue plan, he said that the tunnel is going to be first sanitized and then the workers will be taken out on stretchers. They will then undergo 3 levels of examination and will be transferred by the ambulances to the hospital and then to the airport, and after every check, the final handover will be done to their respective relatives. And moving on, in a virtual session at the inaugural India Global Forum Middle East and Africa 2023, India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman demanded tangible action on climate funding and technology transfer ahead of COP28. The event, themed Unleashing Ambitions, brought together various leaders to explore better opportunities between India, the Middle East and Africa. Addressing the challenges faced by developing and emerging market economies, India's Finance Minister highlighted the need for concrete outcomes at COP28. She insisted for decisive action focusing on funding and technology transfer. The event showcased India's pace of change and growth, positioning the country as an opportunity for global business and collaboration. As the world anticipates COP28, Minister Sitharaman's call for concrete decisions resonates as a crucial step towards addressing climate challenges.
I would think the conversations can happen, a lot of talk can happen, but eventually COP28 should show the direction both for transport technology and for the actual funding, be it a blended finance, public and private partnership or philanthropies coming in, but finance it is required.
Well, Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi hosted the 42nd edition of the India International Trade Fair from 14th to the 27th of November. Over 1 million visitors thronged the pavilions during the fair, with over 3,500 exhibitors from across the world. The trade fair projected India as global trade and investment destination. DD India correspondent Shubhendu Ghosh gets us more.
India International Trade Fair concluded on Monday at Bharat Mandapam. This was the biggest trade fair that Delhi had ever witnessed. After successful organization of G20 Leaders Summit under India's presidency, the gates of the newly developed Bharat Mandapam were open for the public for the mega trade fair on 14th November. While India International Trade Fair represents a melting pot of culture and commerce, it is also a dynamic platform to tell the India story. India as a preferred destination for global trade and investment. The trade fair this year was bigger and better organized than ever before. IITF 2023 was spread over an expansive 110,000 square meters of area, while last year's event was held across 73,000 square meters. Over 3,500 exhibitors from India and abroad participated in the fair. Representatives from 13 countries took part in the fair. All 14 exhibition halls, along with the open area and the convention center area, were included. Over 1 million visitors thronged the fair this year. For convenience of visitors, special parking facility was arranged in the basement for vehicles. Dedicated mobile app provided all exhibition, tickets and navigation related information.
This year we have got a wonderful response from people. It makes us feel very happy, you know, when customer is satisfied with your perfumes and there is a smile on their face. We have got a good response and a huge demand from retailers and wholesalers as well.
This time, since the Bharat Mandapam has been inaugurated by our PM, we feel so proud because of all the cleanliness and the other stalls which has been increased these days. So it's very, interesting coming here, and we feel very proud of this. We even feel that whether it's India or we are in some foreign country, because all the new infrastructure which we have been provided is very good and fine.
IITF, with business-to-business and business-to-customer components, is one of the largest integrated trade fairs in the world. At the conclusion, special awards were distributed to participants. India International Trade Fair 2023 turned out to be a great success. It will now return next year. Shubhendu Ghosh's report for DD India.
A Hollywood actor and producer Michael Douglas will be honoured with Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award at 54th edition of the International Film Festival of India. He walked the red carpet on Monday at IFFI with his actor wife, Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Hollywood actor and producer Michael Douglas, along with wife Catherine Zeta-Jones and son Dylan Douglas, is in Goa to receive the prestigious Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award at 54th IFFI. After walking the red carpet, the family interacted with the Indian press.
Our family loves India. This is our fourth visit. The first 3 times were to the north, and now we have the pleasure and the joy and the honor of being here in Goa, in the south. I am very grateful to IFFI. You pronounce it IFFI. IFFI is the best way to pronounce IFFI, to get this wonderful honor. I actually had a history of Satyajit Ray back in college in the 1960s, in taking a film class, and became aware of some of his work and projects.
The actor and producer said he, along with Indian producer Shailendra Singh, are working on a project in India.
The first time I came here years ago was the idea of making sort of a sequel to Romancing the Stone, a movie made many years ago. It was titled Racing the Monsoon. And we worked on it, and you know, the most important part of these is the script, is the material. That's your architectural foundation. That's what everything is based upon. The truth is there's maybe 10 actors that can play the part, but nobody can repeat the structure. And we never kind of got it quite right. And also our film back then required the use of trains, a lot of trains. And of course the best time for trains in India is not the monsoon season, which is also the time when tourism is the busiest. So it was difficult that time, but the script wasn't right. So anyway, Shailendra put his head to it, and we're working as an outline on a script that we're all interested in. And we're going to hopefully go to the next draft of the script.
Actor Catherine Zeta-Jones emphasized her favorite movie of Bollywood is Om Shanti Om. She added that she would love to be a part if given a role in Indian cinema.
Well, I've always been a huge fan of Bollywood. And being a singer and a dancer, I dreamed that maybe the British film industry would do a Bollywood-type film and I would be able to be cast in it. But I wasn't. But I would. I love it. When my kids were very small, my son will tell you that we showed him Om Shanti Om, which was one of my favorite movies.
Michael Douglas has won everything from Oscar Awards to Emmy to Golden Globe to Palme d'Or at Cannes. With Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award, another prestigious award has been added to the list, registering its presence on the global stage.
We are at the last leg of the 54th edition of International Film Festival of India. Apart from other highlights, masterclasses, in conversation sessions, the biggest emphasis today was on the Hollywood duo Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones, who came here, interacted with the press and unveiled their plans and what it means to be honored with Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award. Shama Mishra, DD India, Goa.
And for more, we have our correspondent Shama Mishra joining us. Well, Shama, since it is the last big today, since you said it is the last leg, can you give us a brief roundup of what all transpired through the festival?
Well, you know, we have to understand that this is the annual fiesta of the cinema, entertainment and everything which is related to entertainment under one roof. So it started from 20th November, and since day one we are seeing action-packed activities throughout the day. We've had several master classes which has dealt with almost every aspect of Indian cinema, be it the women's power, women's role, be it the villain's role, be it the other important aspects. They've been dealt with that. We've seen the who's who of the Bollywood, of the Indian cinema. They've come here. We have always been talking about regional cinema, but it's no longer regional cinema, because if your content is good enough for the world stage to be consumed, then it is your world cinema. So that also we've seen here. Several other languages of Indian origin was also presented over here. Apart from that, screenings of various films, international competition, cinema of the world, IFFI, Gandhi Medal Award, that all categories have also happened. What we've showcased to our viewers yesterday, that Hollywood duo Michael Douglas and his wife and their son as well, they've come to India, they've interacted with the press, and they'll be today, Michael Douglas today would be honored with Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award. Last year we had seen that this award was given to Carlos Saura, and his daughter had come to receive the award, and this time it's Michael Douglas. So we understand his contribution to the world cinema, his contribution to international cinema has been tremendous, and that is the reason why we've selected Michael Douglas as the recipient. Also, he highlighted that this year around, be it this year or be it in several years, India has been progressing in the cinemas sector, and also there's been huge investment that has taken place. The quality, the production, everything has improved in India. And earlier we used to tell ourselves, tell everybody that we are the largest filmmaking country. But today we can say that we are not just the largest, but we are also one of those countries which is producing quality content for the consumption of the world cinema. So all this has happened, and today we will be seeing the closing ceremony where he'll be honored with the award. And apart from that, we have several takeaways from this particular closing ceremony, because the best winner, or the winner rather, of the international competition out of the 15 selected films will be announced. Among this, 3 movies have been of Indian origin. So Kantara is there, Mirbeen is there. These movies are there, and there'll be several other interesting categories also to look out for, where the winners would be announced. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Shama, for that information from there. And moving on, Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra reaches in Indian state of Odisha. On this occasion, people welcomed the awareness vehicle ceremoniously. Various schemes of the central government for the welfare of people were shown through LED screen of the vehicle. A Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra pledge-taking program was also organized on this occasion. And the North Indian holy city of Varanasi wore a magnificent look, illuminated by lakhs of earthen lamps on the occasion of the festival of Dev Deepavali on Monday. Around 140 diplomats, including ambassadors and high commissioners from over 70 countries, witnessed the magnificent cultural extravaganza on the banks of Ganga. The visitors, witnessing the magnificent Dev Deepavali for the first time, were completely enthralled by the experience.
This incredible, this unbelievable experience that allowed us to come closer and to understand better the Indian spirituality and the Indian soul. And I guess all of us were grateful for the invitation and for the experience, this wonderful experience.
I witnessed this incredible show, Sounds and Lights, between modernity and tradition, and it's an experience like no other, so we really enjoyed it.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. US stocks witness a drop as markets go downwards due to weak Chinese data. New home sales also fail. Spain may move one step closer to qualifying the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris. How and when? We tell you ahead.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution.
This series is going to tell stories of such changemakers.
Watch Changemakers on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Khuranan, and on to business news now. US stocks closed low on Monday following weak economic data from China. Investors were also digesting data showing new home sales fell last month due to soaring mortgage rates. Let's take a look at DD India's correspondent Sally Patterson's report.
Last week, the US indices reached their highest levels since August. It was a quiet week on Wall Street with markets closed for Thanksgiving. New data released on Monday showed sales of newly constructed homes fell 5.6% in October, more than expected. According to the report from the US Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Census Bureau, sales were up 17.7% from a year ago. Higher mortgage rates have dampened demand. All eyes are on the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Report for October, which is due out on Thursday. It's the Federal Reserve's favoured inflation gauge and could give an indication of the central bank's next move at its rate decision next month. At the close of trading Monday, the Dow and the S&P both closed down 0.2% and the Nasdaq was flat. Sally Patterson in New York, reporting for DD India.
And on to sports now, India will take on Australia on Tuesday in the third T20 International of the 5-match series. Guwahati, India, led by new captain Surya Kumar Yadav, is leading by 2-0 against Australia. So far, it augurs well for Team India with 9 T20 matches in the fray, including the one to be played on Tuesday in the northeastern state of Assam. Also, the Champions League match in Paris will witness Newcastle United and Paris Saint-Germain engaged in a head-to-head battle, giving their all out in the defining match. Newcastle, who thrashed Chelsea 4-1 on Saturday, find themselves in a tricky Group F with all 4 teams in with a chance of progressing to the last 16. While PSG, placed in the same group, hope to make use of home advantage in Tuesday's game. The team lost 4-1 when they played Newcastle in October. Although PSG have won their last 6 league games, propelling them on top of League One, which makes it a battle worth watching. PSG are second in Group F on 6 points, 1 point behind Dortmund and 1 point ahead of Milan, with Newcastle on 4 points. And Spain women's national football team will continue the IFFI Nations League campaign while hosting Italy later this week. Spain tops Group A, Group 4, with Sweden following behind as second. The team will not witness Ballon d'Or winner Alexia Putellas play, who withdrew due to knee injury. Though the aftermath of Rubiales' affair seemed to eclipse their winning campaign, the World Cup champions look ahead to qualifying for the semi-finals. Spain may move one step closer to qualifying the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris, and it seems poised to clinch first place and runners-up in the National League final scheduled in February. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.